Welcome back to our Composer's Spotlight, where we're learning about Tchaikovsky. So here we're going to take a detour off of his ballets to learn about what else he composed. So early in 1878, he finished several more compositions, including the famous Violin Concerto in D major. This is one that he made his sketches for in only 11 days, and the scoring took only 2 weeks. So out of his large repertoire of pieces that he's written, Tchaikovsky has only made 2 successful concertos, and one was the piano concerto in B-flat that we talked about last week, and then this extremely creative violin concerto. Some think that his failure to produce more concertos might be because Tchaikovsky is such a lyrical writer, and it was hard for him to both dramatically and successfully pit the soloist against the orchestra, while others have suggested that because he avoided close personal relationships, it was hard for him to give meaningful lines to the soloist. And at first, violinists were afraid to play Tchaikovsky's concerto because they thought it was impractical and unsuitable for the instrument. But finally, the brave soul Adolf Brodsky performed it in 1881, 3 years after it had been written. However, just so you all know, my sister is learning this concerto, and she sounds amazing, so it is in fact possible to play this piece. If you want to listen to it, go ahead and listen to the third movement, which is one that you'll be able to see why violinists were afraid of it. So in 1880, next on the great pieces that he's written is Romeo and Juliet. And this is a great example of a tone poem that we learned about in the first video, where he kind of mirrors the structure of Shakespeare's play of Romeo and Juliet. So sonata form apparently mirrors the play really well. So Nikolai Rubinstein conducted the performance, and this piece did so well at its premiere that it was really the first piece that became standard classical repertoire out of Tchaikovsky's compositions. So next piece that we're going to talk about is the 1812 Overture. This was written in 1880, and it's one of his most famous pieces, not just because it's so fun to listen to, but because he literally uses cannons as one of the instruments, like real cannons. And there are a lot of catchy tunes in this overture, including some that Tchaikovsky didn't write. So he adds in a folk dance, a hymn, and also what was at the time the French national anthem. In fact, when the cannons go off in the piece, some have suggested that it was as if he positioned them to shoot the French national anthem down. And the reason for this is because this work is commemorating the Russian army's defense against Napoleon's army. So even though this piece was a huge success, Tchaikovsky was actually sort of annoyed that it was more successful, because to him it meant that the audiences only cared about showy anthems with catchy tunes. He felt like he'd worked much harder on his other more emotional and heartfelt pieces, like his symphonies and concertos, and to him it was like people had kind of chosen like this Pop-Tart over his carefully baked cake from scratch. So try listening to the 1812 Overture. The themes are pretty well known, so see if you recognize any of them. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. We think music is great in so many ways. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when we post new videos.